Hi, Frank D. Tomaso here with some great information that I'm excited to share regarding wellness and living a longer and healthier life. We recently held a company event that featured wellness expert Pam Jacobson of Level 10 Health. What you're about to hear will change your life for the better. There are 4 pillars to living a healthier life, and this is the topic of discussion. But first, I want to mention that normally I like to hold real estate events where my sales professionals can gain strong information and useful ideas to help grow their business. But this event was intended to give them a better understanding of how good health and wellness plays an important role in their everyday lives. It is well understood throughout the realtor community that you always need a high level of energy and your mind always needs to be sharp. So with the pandemic almost behind us, I felt that it was the perfect time to focus on this concept. Here's a brief overview that kicked off the event. Take a listen.
But due to my own illness, I found another path. I really couldn't get the answers I needed in the conventional, and got led down a bit of a different path and discovered the field really of wellness, of functional restoration, right? You don't just wake up one day with a disease. It takes decades to generally for that to occur. And there are many clues that the body gives us all along that trajectory that if we're aware and we're listening and we take action, we're often able to really head off any type of disease before it occurs. Unfortunately, the way that our conventional medical system is set up is it's a disease model. So it can't really do anything for you until you have the disease. And in many cases, oftentimes that can be a problem, right? It might not be reversible, may not be completely resolvable. And certainly can shorten the lifespan. So my work over the last 20 years has really been working with clients to help them restore normal function and regain the health and vitality, create health foundation so that we can head off disease.
Pam then discussed how you can live a healthier life of longevity. Here's what she had to say.
So I'm going to talk for a little bit, give you sort of a template of, things that I want you to be thinking about for this is about living longer, so longevity or lifespan, but more importantly, living healthier, right? Because I don't know about you, but I want to live a long time, but I don't want to live a long time if I'm not going to be healthy and have a high quality of life. So it's about lifespan, but more importantly about health span, which is the quality of our health. Now more than ever, having all of your ability to perform, which has so much to do with our mind and our body, our physical energy, our mental energy, to give the ability to perform at that level is paramount. So
Next, Pam took a deep dive into the 4 pillars of living a longer and healthier life. This is where it all becomes clear how our performance is enhanced.
And so the 4 pillars are, I think, an important template to help us understand what are the things I need to have some intention around on a daily basis if I want to live longer, but more importantly, live healthier. And as a result of that, perform better everywhere in my career, in my relationships, in my community, in the world in general. And those 4 pillars are, and these are in order of importance. So I want to be clear about that because you'll be surprised to find out where diet lands on that system. Sleep optimization is most important. The reason for that is because that's the only time that the physical body and the brain being part of that can repair. It doesn't happen during the day when we're using it, when we're using the body and we're using the brain. It happens at night when we're sleeping. So if we don't have optimal sleep, and I'll go into some detail in each of these categories about what to do, we're going to be unable to really optimize our health in any way. So the 4 pillar system is basically about having you reset a health foundation, or for some of us to create one to begin with. We may have never even had a true health foundation. And if I think of a foundation, you guys are out there in the real estate industry, so it's about buying and selling homes. It's one of the things many of us are concerned about when we're purchasing a new home. We want a good, solid foundation. If the foundation's shaky, we probably aren't going to be as interested in that home, or we're going to be concerned if the inspector comes back and says, looks like you need to shore up your foundation, right? And the foundation here, we're talking about four kind of keystone pillars. Sleep optimization is the most important. Stress response management is number two, or I would say 1.1. It's slightly under sleep optimization, but super critical. I haven't said diet yet, right? Number three is movement. I didn't say exercise, and I'll explain that in a little bit. And then it's diet or nutrition. Okay, so those are our four key pillars to our foundation.
Then Pam broke down the four pillars, beginning with the first one, which is the most important one, and that's sleep optimization. Here's what she said.
So, sleep optimization, I said, was most important for the reason I stated. If we don't have optimal sleep, the body can't repair. If the body can't repair, then over time, you're going to incrementally degrade physiology. It is the primary reason for the evolution of most disease states, including cancer. There's lots and lots of research on sleep. If you're interested, probably one of the best books out right now is Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Runs the Berkeley Sleep Institute. Fabulous book. He's done some great podcasts. If you want the deep dive on sleep, that's a good resource for you. But the easy, kind of bullet pointed take home list for you today on sleep optimization, regardless of where you're at, right? Can't fall asleep, wake frequently, or fall asleep and stay asleep, but don't wake rested. Or maybe you're somebody who's already tracking and measuring sleep because you've listened to Tom Ferry and he has given you all kinds of information about that, and you regularly don't have good sleep metrics. Here are some of the things that you can do immediately to begin to turn the tide on sleep issues. The single most important thing is consistency with bedtime. And bedtime really needs to be something you back into in terms of your waking time. What you need, the minimum when you look at sleep research, is 7 hours. That's the minimum. And you're not going to be the 0.001% of the world's population that genetically can survive less than 7 hours of sleep long term, right? There's really basically almost no one on the planet that can get away with that. So regardless of how you think you feel, if you consistently get less than 7 hours of sleep, you will die sooner and you will have less quality to your health. So you want to allow for reasonably 7.5 to 8 hours in bed in order to net you 7 hours of sleep. Anybody who tracks their sleep metrics will understand that just because you gave yourself exactly 7 hours, your tracking device is going to end up telling you only got about 6 hours and 35 minutes, because the body doesn't fall into the sleep level that it needs to immediately. It takes some time, even though you may not recognize it. You may fall asleep right away. So consistency with bedtime, allowing yourself a minimum of 7 hours. So you've got to kind of plan it for about 7.5 to 8 hours in order to net that 7 hours. It's not okay to go to bed at 7 o'clock tonight and then 11 p.m. the next night and then 2 a.m. the next night. The body runs on a rhythm and it needs to have consistency with bedtime. The absolute optimal is 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. That would be the technically, scientifically optimal. I tell my clients, give yourself a 2-hour window on either side, 9 to 11 p.m. up between 5 and 7 a.m. would give you that perfection of a window for sleep optimization. But important is the consistency with the timing and allowing enough time. This has to be your top priority. And unfortunately for many of us, it is the bottom priority, right? We tend to use our valuable time that we should be resting and sleeping and repairing to continue to work or to get in the few hours of relaxation after a really crazy busy day. Many of us have families, we're busy late into the evening. So I just want you to understand that if we're serious about health optimization, This is the single most important place that can happen for you is in sleep.
She then suggested an actionable item for creating the right sleep environment. Take a listen.
And then the final thing I'll say as an actionable item in sleep optimization is to create the right sleep environment, right? That's really important. You make a hormone in your brain called melatonin that responds to the increasing darkness, right? So as the day wanes and we start to get dusk and then darkness, this hormone becomes more active and it causes us to start to feel sleepy. The problem for many of us is that we don't transition, we don't turn off all the the blue light and the things that affect this hormone from being produced, and then we don't make our room dark enough or quiet enough or cool enough to support a good sleep environment. So quiet, cool, dark for the environment. If you've got a snoring partner, uh, wear earplugs. If you've got a street light outside you can't do anything about, an eye mask. There's all kinds of cooling options now, for the bed to make your side of the bed cooler. So there's ways to create the environment despite, obstacles that you may think that you have.
Next, Pam discussed the second pillar, which is stress reduction and how it can be better managed. She went on to say how this is almost equally important as sleep optimization and could even be considered as pillar 1.1.
Pillar number two, stress response management is the word here. Management. It's not about getting rid of stress, right? The pandemic is here, whether we like it or not. The world is crazy. The politics are crazy. The real estate market's crazy. And probably your home life is crazy. You have no control over any of it. So set that aside. This isn't about changing the stress. If you can, you should. If you've got something that you could fix, like a schedule that's too busy or somebody that's bugging you that you could stop having any kind of attachment to, you should change that. But let's assume that all the stress in our lives is not within our control. It's about managing the only thing you have control over, which is how you respond. How you respond physically, how you respond emotionally. And again, not something that we learn in our culture by and large, is how important that is to manage the response to stress. And there aren't very many things that work. And I'll tell you right now, exercise is not one of them. Okay, so that's usually the first response I get from my client. Oh yeah, I exercise. I run for 20 miles a day. I ride my spin bike. I'm just falling off of it. That is a whole separate category. Exercise is its own pillar. Stress response management is about calming the nervous system. It's not about activating it. Exercise activates the nervous system. It's its own separate pillar. Stress response management, not many things that you can do that qualify there. All of them have one thing in common: the breath. The nervous system, it's really your survival mechanism, right? You have a primitive part of your brain. It's been there since humans began to develop. And the job of this part of the nervous system is to protect us from danger. And it used to be real, that we had real danger, like animals that could kill us or, environmental factors that were very concerning. We don't have that anymore. Now it's just our thoughts that can kill us, or the deadline at work, or the crazy market that you're in. The primitive brain has no ability to discern a difference. It doesn't go, oh, that's just a work deadline. He's okay. Everything looks like the lion in the jungle that's chasing you, all of it. Every time you have a thought or have a feeling about something, your nervous system is interpreting that as a danger, potentially mortal danger. That causes a release of chemicals and stress hormones that prepare you to fight or to flee the situation. And most of us are in this fight or flight mode 24 hours a day. Doesn't even shut off when we go to bed because we didn't even make a transition for that to even happen. So how do we get control over this? Well, the only way to move from fight or flight, or what I call the active side of the nervous system, to the resting side of the nervous system is through the deep breath. If we take a deep breath deep into the belly, not just into the chest where most of us breathe most of the time, it signals the nervous system that we are not in danger, and all of that backs off. And most of you will note that when you do that consistently, you feel a little bit more relaxed. Wow, I just feel better. Anytime you can intentionally take deep breaths. So any activity that allows for that to happen, meditation, some forms of yoga. For all of you exercise aficionados out there, it's not power yoga or exercise yoga. It's the real deal where you're using a lot of, or just straight up breathing exercise. There's lots of different, breathing patterns that you can use, but just taking a deep breath down into the belly. You can do this when you're in a meeting. I could do it right now. You can do it when you're on a call. It doesn't require special clothing, special circumstances. You can do it anytime. But I do, in the process of a daily self-care regimen, I do like routine. So something like a 5, 10, 15-minute meditation in the morning. Our smartphones are great devices. There's hundreds of apps out there with meditations that can guide you through, even if there's all kinds of programs on, walking you through intentional deep breathing. So what I would say is, when we're thinking about a daily self-care routine, the key is that involves deep breathing. So something in the morning for a few minutes before you start your day, something throughout your day, which would just be, for me, it's just intentional deep breath in between my calls, before I start a meeting, before I switch over to my next activity. I have a little note on my computer that says breathe. Reminds me to, okay, and I'm just going to take a couple of deep breaths and remind my nervous system I'm not in the jungle. Lion's not chasing me. Because otherwise, if I'm really anxious about what I'm going to do next, my nervous system immediately interprets that as, oh my God, she's dying. Let's go. Right. And we get all of the stress chemical release, even though I'm just anxious about maybe a conversation I'm getting ready to have. So start our morning, something little throughout the day, and something to anchor at the end of the day. And that, for me, that's a meditation once I get into bed, right? That's easy. It doesn't take me any extra time. I'm going to bed anyway. It's on my phone. I turn it on. I go to sleep to it. No excuse. Didn't take me any extra time. The morning, you might need to carve out an extra 10 minutes, but it will be 10 minutes that will make your day different than any other day you've had. If you anchor your nervous system by starting your day that way, and it can be part of your morning routine, right? Whatever your power morning routine is, it needs to involve some level of nervous system calming, whether you used meditation, deep breathing, some restorative yoga, whatever that was. Start your day that way. It will make a tremendous difference in the way your day goes.
Moving on to pillar number 3, Pam discussed how everyday body movement is of extreme importance, and possibly more important than even going to the gym. This may be hard to believe, but take a listen to this.
Number 3 is movement. I don't call it exercise. And the reason I'm going to say that is because exercise conjures up, for me anyway, I got to go someplace, a gym. Don't like gyms. Don't want to have to wear special clothing. Don't want to be tied into having to do the same thing every day. Don't have an hour, because most of us think, well, it takes an hour. I don't have an hour. Plus, I got to get in my car. I got to drive there. I got to be with a bunch of sweaty people, wear special clothes. Who's got time for that? None of us have time for that. So movement, it's about moving your body in a variety of ways throughout your day, not just in one lump sum. Now, for those of us that have time or have access, and we could do an hour on our bike or out for a hike, or that's great. You should do it. You got time to take an hour yoga class? Great. You should do it. I'm pretty sure none of us have that time every single day. So we set ourselves up to fail right away when we say, I'm going to exercise for an hour every day, 6 days a week. No, you're not. You are not. But if I said, I'm going to move my body every day throughout my day, and most days I'm going to probably be able to add up about 35, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour worth of stuff to move my body. That, I believe, most of us could accomplish. And so it's really thinking about all the different ways you could be moving when you're at work, when you're between work, when you're on your way someplace. And there's a myriad of ways that we can do that. I would say one of my most favorite things is, especially for those of us that are largely working in a home environment, and not maybe going out as much as we had in the past, is I really like a rebounder. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's just a little mini trampoline. You can buy them on uh, Amazon for, I don't know, $80 or something, and for a good one. Get the one with the handle so that you've got some stability when you're first starting out, and have it in your office, like right next to your desk. Like you can't get away from your desk unless you step over that thing, and set a timer. Every hour you get on there and you march in place for 5. This is not about jumping and doing all kinds of crazy acrobatics. This is just about moving your body, right? So march in place. I guarantee you in a minute, your heart rate will be high and you'll be getting some movement. And you manage to do that in, say, 3 minutes. And now you go back to your desk and you continue your work. It's a valuable tool that can be used by anybody, regardless of your physical fitness, and in a variety of ways. You can walk on it, you can march on it. Eventually, when you're really great, you can jump, you can do all kinds of exercise. But it's a very convenient, easy tool that you can use throughout the day. This is about short bursts of activity throughout the day in between. And the science, the current science says this is absolutely more effective than an hour's worth of exercise. So we're seeing almost better effects. It allows you to, and it can be anything. It can be cardio. So marching in place on the rebounder is going to give you some body weight, but it's also mostly going to be cardio. You could have a couple of hand weights nearby, where you could just be doing some arm exercises and some shoulder raises. You could be doing a wall sit while you're on that phone call. You can Google office workouts for all kinds of, and you didn't have to have special clothing. I've got a dress on. I can do push-ups against the desk. I can do a couple of jumping jacks. So the idea here that you look for every opportunity to move your body. When you have larger amounts of time, then you can do something more structured. But most of us get that. What we don't get is you could have been doing little stuff all day long. By the time you got done with your day, you're done. You don't have to get off at 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night exhausted thinking, now I got to go to the gym. Your gym was your office and you could have done it all day long if you just looked for the opportunity. Right?
While on this topic, she talked about how she was recently asked what's the single most important thing that a person could do daily to increase their longevity. And this was her response.
I had a person ask me on my show, actually, it was a question I got on the show I do on Wednesdays. What did I think was the single most important thing that a person could do daily that would help them increase their longevity? And since I had to pick in that moment the single most important thing, when you look at what science keeps coming back to and keeps coming back to, it is exercise, it's movement. It's the one thing we haven't been able to come up with a drug to mimic the benefits of exercise. It's the one thing that 100% of the time, if you're diabetic and you exercise for that moment in time and for some period of time after you exercise, you are on record no longer diabetic. It has that much of an impact on glucose control to make you not even recognizable as diabetic. So it is critical to move your body. And you move it to the degree that you're able to, right? Again, don't use ability or disability as an excuse not to move. There's so many different ways that we can move. If you've got back problems, then you choose different type of movement. If you already are debilitated and can't get up and move around easily, then you do it in your chair. So there's many different ways. The idea here is to move.
And finally, Pam discussed the fourth pillar to living a longer and healthier life.
Pillar number 4, we're finally there. It's nutrition, right? This is where most of us start. You started at the bottom, and we really needed to start up here. If we don't repair the body and we don't manage the stress response, think about it. If you're in the jungle and a lion is chasing you, what do you need, right? You don't need any of your other body functions. You're not going to poop, pee, eat, sleep. None of that matters, right? So your nervous system says, hey, man, he's going to die anyway. So we don't need any of this stuff. All we need is stress hormone. He needs to breathe shallowly because we're running. I need your hip girdle and your shoulder girdle to be primed for running or fighting, which is why men have all the back pain and women have all the neck and shoulder issues. And I need lots of fast, carbohydrate-rich, glucose-rich foods to keep me able with fast fuel to run, run, run. That's why during the pandemic, when all you're really doing is sitting, you find yourself in the pantry eating chocolate and chips and all kinds of crazy food because your mind is going, oh my God, the market's crazy. Oh my God, we're in a pandemic. What's happening to the economy? Oh my God, look at the politics. And the brain's going, he's dying. He's dying. We're running. We need chips and bread and cookies and candy and all kinds of fast glucose and lots of it. So when it comes to nutrition, the most important thing that we can do first and foremost is understand there's no one diet that's right for everyone. You have to find what works for you. And the way to begin doing that is I'm big on structure and templates. The template that I use for diet, many of you, if you've ever seen anything I've done with Tom Ferry, probably every opportunity I've ever had, I talk about what I call the salad plate scenario. And it's really just a picture that you can have in your mind for how to approach nutrition from a balanced perspective. It's not ketogenic, it's not paleo, it's not low carb. It's just a balanced approach to nutrition that gives you a baseline to start to figure out what works for you and what doesn't, right? It's not vegan, it's not vegetarian, it's not carnivore, it's just balance. And the salad plate scenario accomplishes a few things when it comes to nutrition. The biggest problem we have in our culture is overeating, right? Huge meals. You go to a restaurant and the plate's just overflowing, right? And we're pretty much raised that way, right? We eat a huge amount of protein and a huge amount of carbohydrates at every meal. There's always a big starch. You go to a restaurant, it's a giant plate of rice, a reasonably good sized steak, and then a little, maybe if you were lucky, a little tiny bit of all wilted vegetables floating in some, right? It's really opposite of what it should be. So salad plate controls portion, right? Most of us don't need more food than that at our meal. I don't care how big you are or what you do. You don't need more than a salad plate size of a meal. 50% of that plate should be the vegetable, not the starch. Okay, so two handfuls of veggies at the meal. Could be a salad, any form. Could be stir fried, could be roasted, can be steamed, some variety of veggies. One palmful, your palmful size of protein. So for ladies, that's probably around 3-4 ounces. For guys with bigger hands, that's going to be maybe 6-ish ounces. And that's your protein, whatever that is for you. If you're vegan, great, whatever your protein is. You're vegetarian, if you're a standard American diet eater, that's going to be your chicken, your fish, whatever. Palmful. And then that leaves a tiny little sliver on the plate for what I call everything else. 6 bites. If you're going to have rice, it's 6 bites. If you're going to have a potato, it's 6 bites. If you're going to, I had one guy walk up to me at the first summit I did with his little salad plate, and in his little 6-bite sliver, he had this tiny little piece of cake. I was like, okay, well, it's only 6 bites, right? So it's the everything else goes in that spot. If it's not a protein and it's not your 2 handfuls of vegetables, it's going to be whatever the everything else is about 6 bites. And then you liberally use your good fats, which are very important in the preparation and dressing of the meal. That's things like olive oil, avocado oil. And I can go into detail on your questions about what are healthy oils. So what did that accomplish? It controlled how much I ate. Number one most important thing. The biggest issue we have is it would be almost like pulling up to the gas station in your car. And when the thing clicks off, you're like, no, you're not full yet. And you keep trying to jam the fuel in there, right? And pretty soon it just comes splashing back out at you. We do that with our bodies, right? We eat so fast and so mindlessly, most of us sitting at our computer or looking at our phone while we're shoveling it in, and we overfeed. And that's very damaging to the body. It's not able to handle overfeeding. So the salad plate scenario controls portion. And then if you just think of 2 handfuls of veggies, 1 palmful of protein, 6 bites of anything else that's going to go on the plate, it gives you a template for a balance of a meal that is relatively moderate in carbohydrates from the proper sources, veggies mainly, moderately protein-based in whatever protein choice you're making, and it limiting the starches and the carbs that are going to come from other sources like potatoes, rice, or a little dessert, whatever that might be. And then it's moderate in fat because we're using some good fats in the preparation and the dressing. That is a template that every single person can approach to creating a meal as they experiment with what works for them.
To wrap it up, Pam gave a brief summary highlighting the 4 pillars, and here it is.
So that's your 4 pillars. That's the health foundation: sleep optimization, stress response management. I would say sleep optimization, I'm going to call it consistent and giving yourself enough time. Stress response management, I really like meditation. I don't find anything that gives me the advantages outside of meditation that I've experienced in the decade or so that I've been consistently doing it. Movement, the theme there is just move all day long, as much as you can, in as many different ways as you can. 3 minutes at a time, 4 minutes at a time. And when it comes to nutrition, salad plate scenario, it's just really easy. Salad plate scenario.
Well, I hope you found this information to be helpful, but mostly, I hope you'll take advantage of this insight and allow it to help you live a longer, healthier, and more prosperous life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at our next event.